Hey everyone, how's it going? And welcome back to Diary of an Olympic Triathlete. Here we are with, I believe it's week six, either week six or week seven, of this series of videos. Um, and I'm just going to give you all a brief update on my recovery. How's everything going? What things are looking like? First, I do want to apologize because last week I said I was going to start uploading these videos every Monday. It is now Wednesday because I'm a massive procrastinator. But here we are. I've recorded the video at least. You guys can be happy with that. But I apologize for the tardiness, and hopefully from now on it actually will be every Monday. But I make no promises because look at me. This is just me. This is like the perfect embodiment of me as a person. Um, but I'm trying to change it, so we'll see what happens. Anyway, first update. You guys can probably see this. So I no longer have the cast on my head. I have this nice little spiffy looking brace, like split. They're calling it a split. So I guess that's split brace basically. So to explain what's happened, so I uploaded the last video like late Sunday night, early Monday morning. So that was right before I was going to get operated. I got operated on Monday in Spain, in Valencia. I ended up I went to the hospital. I got operated. They said everything went perfectly. And then I stayed there at night in the hospital just so that I could be monitored. I wasn't allowed to move, to walk around yet. So I was kind of bedridden for a day. And then the next morning, they said I was good to go. They gave me the discharge form, and they let me go. So I went back to my apartment. I stayed there for a while. My mom was helping out, with all of the aspects of life, helping me, maintain things in the apartment. But we also decided, mainly it was I decided that I was going to come back to the U.S. Because basically we were talking about it for a while, and my mom was definitely on board with the idea of me coming back to the U.S. But there was a small part of me that was still a bit doubtful. Like I still liked the idea of staying in Spain and still getting to have my experience there. But my mom was definitely pushing me to come back. And after I got the surgery, I just felt how like delicate everything was, and I was like, yeah, this really is not going to work living alone in an apartment in Spain once my mom leaves. So the day after the surgery, we bought the plane ticket, and Saturday I arrived back home in the U.S. So here we are. You guys might recognize this office because this is where I was recording back when I was living here in the U.S. And now I'm back again, and I'll be here until August, early September, because I will be heading back to Spain to study in college unless there is a significant change of plans. Um, so, I'll be heading back to Spain soon enough, but I'm going to be staying here until then. So I'm going to be doing all my recovery here and, starting to get back into shape to get back into athletic activities at some point. So we'll see how all of that, shapes up. But yeah, so I've been back here with my family. My mom she actually stayed in Europe a bit longer because she had to give a talk, but now she's come back home. And I was also, right when I got here, my dad and my brother were here, so they've been really helpful with, managing everything, helping cook, helping, clean stuff, and just in general keeping my life in order. So it's been really helpful to have other people around. And yeah, like I've just in general been getting a bit more positive. Life is starting to feel a lot more normal, especially thanks to this thing. Because if you guys remember last week, I had like I actually don't know if I had the sling on yet because so post surgery they gave me a sling. They gave my arm was like full like in a full cast with a sling because the finger really could not move whatsoever, and I had to keep it elevated. So I had it always like this. Um, I think before the surgery, I guess I didn't really have any like sling or anything. I just had like the cast. But like yeah, post surgery it was like complete like full cast pretty much to immobilize the hand, the finger, so it really can't move. Like it couldn't move whatsoever. Today, or not today, yesterday, Tuesday, I went to the doctor for my first appointment here in the U.S. Which the first thing I have to say was transferring from Spain to the U.S. That was the one thing I was worried about, and it was both harder and easier than I thought it was going to be. Like it was harder on the Spanish end because there it was just a whole freaking odyssey to get the paperwork. Like I had to get all the information on what they had done during my surgery and X-rays of my injury and all these things because I knew the doctors in the U.S. were going to need that stuff. So, I went to like the day after my surgery, as I'd been discharged and I was leaving, I tried to go and get that information, but since I didn't have my physical passport on me, they wouldn't give it to me. So then I had to come back the next day because it already closed. Like once I got home to get my passport, they'd already closed. So then I had to go back the next day in the morning with my passport, and I asked for it, and then like it was this whole thing because then I had to go to the billing department to pay, and it was like I ended up spending 2.5, 3 hours in the hospital just like running around places to pay for them to like process all the paperwork and get it to me, and then I couldn't even get it that day. I had to come back the day after to then finally pick up all of the paperwork, and so that was that. That was not very fun, but I ended up getting the forms, and so then I brought those back to the U.S. We got them translated, because obviously they're in Spanish. We translated them to English, and then we gave them to the doctors here. And fortunately, the doctors here were very good at. They just kind of took what we gave them, and they were able to pretty quickly figure out what had happened. What the surgery had been. They asked me a couple questions, but otherwise, they figured out what had happened, and basically they were like, "All right, here's what we need to do." So, as it's been explained to me, I now have a clearer timeline as to what this is going to look like. And I do now have also a very likely date of return to sports activities. So, right now, I cannot do any kind of really sports of any kind. That was the case right after the operation. When I asked them yesterday about it, they were also like, "Don't do anything athletic. You can go on walks, but that's it. Like, don't no elliptical, no bike, no running, no swimming, nothing." Which that's what I expected. It was like we're a week post op. Like right after the operation, actually, I wasn't even going for walks because the hand just felt so tender. Like it just felt so delicate. Like I would walk a block down the street and it would feel like the stitches were coming apart. And so I was really taking things easy, just resting, recovering, letting my body do its thing because it's been put through a lot these last couple of weeks. So I was just giving it its time. And so I really didn't go for any walks for like a week. Like it wasn't until Monday, I want to say, so 2 days ago, that I finally like took my first walk, and that was when I was back here in the U.S. Um, and now that's just a daily thing for me. It's like every day I'm going on like a 60 to 90 minute walk just to you know get the blood flowing, keep my aerobic capacity somewhat, and then the second I'm cleared to do any kind of activity, we're gonna try to do it. But yeah, at the moment it's just walking, and they haven't said I can't do like leg stuff. So I'm going to try also to do. There's like a leg routine that I found it's all body weight, like squats and wall sits and that kind of thing. And I've done that routine before, so I'm thinking like, and I actually did it once between when I was discharged the first time and the surgery. So I'm thinking I could do it now because the hand now is starting to feel a lot more solid. So I'm thinking maybe start doing a couple of those like leg routines because I would keep my legs in good condition for once I finally can start running and biking again. I'll have strength. I mean, my legs could even get stronger to be honest because when I was doing my training before, I couldn't work on my legs really because I had to work on, getting my aerobic base up and just like running, which obviously helps your legs, but like not as much as doing like specific squats and lunges and that kind of stuff. And I also found there's this shoulder routine. It was actually one of my friends recommended it to me because he had a similar like hand surgery, and so he couldn't lift weights, and he didn't want to lose all like the strength in his arm that he had built up. So he found this body weight shoulder routine, which is like basically it's you like hold your arms in the air and you do like different arm circles and like different exercises that don't use any weight. Um, and I did it once. It is so hard. It is like you would not believe how difficult it is. So I did that once as well. Because the idea there is like for my swimming, I need to have my shoulders in good shape. So, I'm thinking I'll be doing those a little bit each week, like maybe once or twice for each one, and then go on a walk every day. And that'll keep me more or less okay. So that like when I start running again, I won't be going back from like square one. So that's where we are in that department. And then, yeah, as I mentioned, so we got a clear timeline at this appointment yesterday about what things are going to look like. Because, so as you see, I got transferred to a brace. They actually said there were two options that either they were going to put me back in a cast, so another week in a cast, or give me the brace. And they said I seem nice, so they're going to give me the brace. Because the nice thing about this is I can take this off. The cast I couldn't, obviously. So I can take this off. I can shower. I can wash my hand. I can like look at the wound and stuff in detail, which that's one thing that like up until now, all I did was see my hand very on occasion, and like what the injury looked like. But now, like whenever I want, I just take off the brace and I can look at it if I need to. So that's nice. Like I have a lot more autonomy. Obviously, this is also only on my hand instead of my entire arm. So just I feel lighter. I feel like more free in terms of just like everything. So they said it's this brace, and I have so my finger has to stay in this curved position because there was nerve damage, and so they've repaired a nerve, but it's going to take a long time for it to grow back. They said it takes about a month for that growth process to start. And during that time, my finger needs to remain curved. If my finger straightens out, that's going to interrupt that. And instead if that happens, what they'd have to do is operate me again. So, and like, because really what they've done so far is they've stuck the nerves together. But if this sticking process gets screwed up by my finger straightening out, what they'd have to do is nerve grafting, which is to take nerves from a different part of my hand and stick them there. So basically, that's something we don't want to get into because that's opening a whole can of worms. So keep the finger curved and we'll avoid any problems. That's the goal. But they said it has to be a month that my fingers are like this. A month post op, so 3 weeks now because we've already gotten 1 week post op out of the way already, which feels amazing. Feels amazing, honestly. I'm already counting down the days back to when I can get back into action. But so yeah, it's gonna be 3 more weeks that I'm gonna have the hand in the brace, and then they said once that nerve regeneration process has started, then I can start to straighten out the fingers, and I'll begin doing finger mobility exercises. That's to say, working on the tendon because the tendon is the other thing that was damaged, and I have to start doing strength exercises to get it moving, get it back to full strength, and then like after that point, I've been told it's a 6 week program and then I should, in theory, be at full strength, which is to say that 10 weeks post op or 9 weeks from now, my finger's back at full strength. So, what does that mean now for my fitness journey? Because that's obviously something these videos are about, right? It's my fitness. Um, so, fitness journey wise, what does that look like? That looks like my so we've already had a week, likely 3 more weeks until I can start getting back into non-hand related workouts. So this is nothing the doctors have guaranteed to me, but it just logically tracks with what they have told me. Because they had told me that I can't run and I can't bike at the moment because I would put pressure on the finger and leave it to straighten out. After a month though, so after 4 weeks, the finger can straighten out. So therefore, I should be able to start running and biking at that time. Obviously, I'm going to need the doctors to confirm that for me, but at that appointment, because we're gonna have 2 appointments now. We're gonna have one next week, which is gonna be to remove the stitches, and then one 2 weeks after, so 4 weeks post-op, which will be when we take this brace off and we start working on the finger mobility. So likely that appointment, which is likely to be May 21st, not guaranteed, but probably around then, I could start getting into finger mobility, and that means I could start working out. So that's the date I have circled on my calendar right now. I'm trying to not get too ahead of myself and like get too excited because I'm sweating. I'm like, oh my god! But it's very possible. It's a very real possibility that May 21st I could get back into activities, and so but that would be running and obviously lightly running at first, and then biking. Stationary biking. There's actually a chance I could start stationary biking even sooner. We'll see next week what they say. Like this at this appointment, I asked them about everything. I literally was like, okay, running, what's the deal with that? Biking, what's the deal with that? Can I even do like elliptical? And they were just kind of like, no, don't do anything at the moment. And I was getting very much the air of like, okay, this is an abundance of caution type of situation, which is good because it's important that this recovers, in the correct way, so we don't have to operate it again. So that means don't jump the gun. Take your time. Like we need to take our time with this kind of thing. But yeah, so maybe next week I will have good news about. Sorry, next week I might have good news about being able to maybe start light workouts, light bike, for example. But yeah, I mean, as it's been explained to me as well, the risk about this like me doing workouts with this isn't really like too severe. It's just a fall risk. So with running, the risk is I could fall, try to break it, and then of course my finger will straighten out, and that screws up the nerve. So that's why I can't run, is it's been explained to me. And I can't bike because when you hold the handlebars, you're gonna put pressure on the finger, obviously, and that also could lead to the finger getting straightened out or putting too much pressure, screwing up the growth. So I do feel like my personal feeling is I could probably do both those things and be okay. Like that's kind of like what my inner me is telling me. But my inner me is what got me into this in the first place because my inner me told me to do something stupid that got me injured. So um, I'm trusting what the doctors say. I'm doing exactly what they say because the only thing I don't want to do is re-injure this. So I have to follow exactly what they say. As much as my enemy just was like, "You'll be fine. Just go for a jog. It's only like this thing on your hand. You could be fine, right?" But I'm like, if they told me not to, there's a very obvious reason for it. So and like the explanation makes sense what they said. Like I personally, I don't feel like I'm at a fall risk if I go for a run, and I feel like on a stationary bike, I put my weight on my arms because I'm in the arrow position, so I don't feel like it's a danger to the finger. But if that's what they've said, and I'm only 1 week post op, obviously it's better to follow what the doctors are saying than what my own intuition is because I don't know what I'm doing. So that's what I'm doing. But it looks like I could get a doctor's green light 3 weeks from now, likely, because that's when I can start straightening out the finger, starting to get that mobility. And so then the fall risk wouldn't be as much of a problem, and the like bite, like putting my hands on some bike handlebars wouldn't be as much of a problem. So we'll have to see. And then the question is swimming. When can I restart swimming? Because this is called obviously diary of an Olympic triathlete, right? So the swimming is an important part of that. And the answer is likely 10 weeks post op because, so doing the math, we have 3 more weeks left until I can start strength work. And then they were saying strengthening of the finger will take about 6 weeks. That means in theory, 10 weeks post op, I would have finished their finger kind of rehab program and I would be cleared to, start swimming because you can start swimming once your finger's at full strength. That's kind of the idea. So in theory, that would be the timeline. When I've looked online, a lot of online, government sources have been saying it would be more like 12 weeks until your tendon is at full strength. So between 10 to 12 weeks, which we're looking at between right at the beginning of July and like mid-July is when I could start swimming. Um, and then obviously, mid-May is when I could start running. So I could start running and start biking. So we're already looking at pretty early timelines. And these are very exciting timelines for me that I could start working out. Obviously, I've already given up on, any like doing the triathlon over in Europe because I'm back in the US, like that part's dead. So what that has done for me though is it's really opened up kind of the possibilities because I was looking at early July, what can I do in early July? Because that's when I had the triathlon plan. And that's how long I thought I would stay in Europe. But now that I'm here in the US, I can start looking bigger because I have until early September, which means I've just extended by 2 months my time of okay, this is kind of my window we're looking at now because that's how long I'm staying here. Like I know it's kind of silly, but like when I was living in Europe, I was so focused on okay, what can I do before I leave here, without thinking that okay, the U.S. is also like just as valid. But like now that I'm here in the U.S., I've extended my timeline of okay, all the way until the end of summer. What are the things I can do? We're still in mid spring at the moment, so that gives me a lot of window, a lot of margin to work with. Of even if the doctors delay a bit when I can start with this recovery, um, that still gives me a lot of time to plan. Where like I know that at some point during the summer I will be able to do a couple of races, so like I'm not too worried about this. About it as like versus when I was looking at okay, I need to get something by early July because after that I'm leaving Europe and like I was gonna be forcing things because I can like already looking at the timeline here that the doctors have given me. It's by early July I could be able to start swimming and then doing my first strokes in the water, type of thing. Which I think I actually talked about this in a previous video in this series. Was like I was talking about doing a trial like 6 weeks post op to try and see if I could start swimming so that because the race was 10 weeks post op and I was like, I'm gonna need a couple weeks of swimming practice before I just like get out in the open water and try to swim. a mile almost, or a kilometer and a half. So this opens things up. It allows me to take things, day by day, which is just a lot more relaxing for me. Like it's just a lot more kind of reassuring that I'm not trying to force things. I'm not trying to just get to some event. Um, Instead, I'm focusing on what's important to me, and I have an entire summer now in the U.S. That's going to be my season. Like the spring part of the season is just over, unfortunately. But that's what happens. That's injuries. And the other good part is that fortunately this is very localized, which means that I can still do my shoulder work. I can still do my leg work. I can still go on walks and work on my cardio. Like if this was a broken leg, my options would be way more limited. So that's something I'm thankful for. Is like the fact that it's such a localized injury and that I have this ability to do so many other things. But yeah, so that's kind of where we are at the moment. Um, we're looking at, next week, stitches come out. Potential, maybe I can start biking, but likely not. Likely that would be 3 weeks later. In 3 weeks, I could start biking and running lightly and then build my way up. And then 10 weeks from now, or sorry, 9 weeks from now, so 10 weeks post op, we're looking at like the 4th of July, I could start swimming, which for me is like works out perfectly because I do have the dream of like going, we have this family reunion we do every year for the 4th of July in my family, and I would love to be able to swim in the lake that we go to. So like if I'm able to swim in the lake, that's perfect for me, and that comes like in theory right about when I will be reaching the end of the strength program that the doctors are going to give me. So we will see. Everything has to be done according to physician's advice. As excited as I might get, I need to defer to them because they're the experts. They're the ones who got me this far, and they're gonna get me the rest of the way there. But there's definitely a small part of me that's getting excited, like, damn, I'm close already. Because like, I mean, the way I was thinking about it was, I got injured 3 weeks ago, and I'm already 3 weeks from when I could restart running. So I'm already over halfway there. Like that part's crazy. Obviously, these last 3 weeks it felt like forever though. So who knows what the next 3 weeks are gonna feel like? But that said, also they're gonna be better 3 weeks because they're gonna be 3 weeks where I'm feeling myself getting stronger. I'm getting more mobility. I'm getting more flexibility. I'm getting more aerobic capacity and whatnot as I'm getting back into walking. I'm getting stronger versus those first 3 weeks were a week spent in the hospital, a week in limbo, and then a week post op, with like everything just tender and hurting. So, yeah, and then let's talk athletic goals because this is where I've started to get concrete with like having confirmed the fact that I now have the entire summer to like here in the US and I'm really looking at the entire summer of what's the potential, set of things I could do. My goals are this. And I think I might have lightly talked about these in other videos, but I want to like establish it strongly in this video of like this is what I would like to do, which is I want to get back into 5Ks. I want to get a sub 24 5K at some point. In a triathlon I did in February, I was extremely close. I got because I did a sprint triathlon, which the running section is a 5K, and I ended up completing the running section in 24:14. So I was 14 seconds off from a sub 24-minute 5K. So I was like so close. But small caveat was since it was February, that was an indoor triathlon, and I did the running section on a train. So on the road, I probably ran more like 25 minutes. So probably I have about a minute that I need to cut. That I need to cut off of that time. And then like the last road 5K I ran, or my fastest road 5K was at 25:48, but that was back like on Christmas. That was Christmas Eve actually that I ran that 5K. So I want to get sub 24 on the road. I know I'm close. I know I have the fitness, and I'm pretty sure like I was about to run a 5K, and I was looking in good shape to be able to PB because I was feeling good aerobically. Like it wasn't far from a guarantee, but I had a good feeling, I had a good sensation in my chest about that. So it's unfortunate I didn't get to attempt it, but that's life. So I want to get sub 24 5K, and my plan is just do a 5K every couple of weeks. Over the summer. Once they let me run, maybe give myself 4 weeks to kind of work up the fitness, some training. Start with light jogs, do a bit of tempo runs, do that, and then start doing intervals, and then attempt my first 5K like maybe a month after. So maybe like we're looking like mid to late June. I can do maybe like my first 5K, like my first race. And then my second goal, and this is my bigger one, is I would like to run a 6 minute mile. I have kind of a funny story behind this, which is that my brother, when he was in high school, he played soccer. My older brother, I'm talking about. And so to get on the team, you had to run a 6 minute mile. Like that was part of the test. So that was like a big thing that the guys were always challenged by because like right to start the season, you had to be able to run a 6 minute mile to get on the team. I think though it was 6 minutes for the seniors, and I think for the other years it was a bit slower. I think it was like 6:20, 6:40. But basically, I've been sitting here thinking, all right, there were like 15-year-old soccer players in high school who were running 6 minute miles. They're not even full time runners. Like that's it. They're just playing soccer, and they had to be able to run that speed. So I'm like, for me, it's motivating that idea of okay, I need to beat them, and I think 6 minutes is a really good number to hit because I think 7 minute when I was at my peak pace, like I never did a mile time trial on its own, but I think I could have all out mile run 7 minutes because I was running 8 minute miles and a little bit quicker. In my 5Ks and my 5K training, like I think during a 5K, average splits would be like slightly over 8 minutes, slightly under 8 minutes, and then like 7:40 for the last mile because I'd sprint the last section. So that's kind of what my 5Ks looked like. And then I ran a 2 mile part for like because I did a super sprint triathlon, which had a 2 mile run, and I ran each of those miles in a little over 7:30. So I'm like, if you take out the distance and it's just all out 1 mile, I think 7 I was capable of with my fitness. Obviously now my fitness isn't as great, but that's something I can quite easily get back. I think because I'm doing everything I can to maintain, obviously with the walks, and I'd like to get to a 6 minute mile by the end of the summer. Maybe that's completely unrealistic, but it would be fun to try. I think so. And my dad actually has. Now that I'm saying this, I definitely remember mentioning this in some other video, but I'm gonna repeat it again because it excites me. My dad did. He has a goal of running a 5:40 mile, which is ridiculous because the man is like 50. So, like he is, he is an extremely impressive person. I have to say, he really does inspire me to the fact that he's turning, I think, 54 this year. Like he's crazy. But yeah, he's trying to go for 5:40 mile. He's been battling some injuries as well, but if he gets fully healthy, he wants to go for it by the end of the summer. And so I've talked to him about trying to attempt that. Either there's a mile race that we have in our city at the beginning of July, although it looks like we won't be able to make it because we might not be in town that day. So if we can't, there's also a set of like all ages track meets that are being done kind of around us in our state and then also some other states that are close by. So if we can do that somehow, I think that would be really cool. And we could do the mile in those track meets. And also, my dad does shorter events. He does, the 200, the 400, the 100, I think even. So he's talked about maybe doing like one of those track meets and then doing like a set of those events. So there's a set of those track meets throughout kind of July and then also some in like early August. So I've been looking at potentially doing obviously I'll do the 5Ks, but then I'll start working on my mile time. Which the nice thing about training for different running events is that it's all aerobic is like the base part, and then obviously you're gonna have a couple days of specialized like for a mile I have to do 400 repeats. For 5K do mile repeats, and every tempo runs and whatever. But like in general, a lot of running training is the same regardless of the event you're doing. Like a recovery run for a marathon and a recovery run for a mile runner are going to be pretty similar. It's going to be all right. Let's go for an hour or like half an hour, and just go on a nice light jog. And that's going to be the same no matter what you're training for. So that's the nice thing is like you're just building up your aerobic base, and that helps you with everything. And then obviously, I can get specific and like, okay, this week I want to focus on my 5K time, or these couple of weeks I'm going to be focusing on that. And I have this big race, I'm going to try to hit a PB. But then I'm going to be like, all right, mile, I need to spend 6 weeks and just just completely grind on trying to hit my targets for this mile. So we're gonna attempt that. I think it's gonna be super fun. I can even get track spikes. I've been thinking I can buy some track spikes because you can have track spikes for a mile. But yeah, so I think it seems really cool. And like the race, like we're looking at races where they have heats that are based on speed. And so there's like I think one of the races, it was like you have a sub 5:30 mile, like for the mile event. One heat is sub 5:30, one heat is from 5:30 to 6:30, and then one is 6:30 plus. So that also shows you the range of speeds that we're working with. Like 6:30 is the slowest heat in the event. But I'm looking to get into that 5:30, 6:30 heat because that way I can do it with my dad because that both of our goal times are in that range. So, I'm obviously once I'm able to get back out there and start running, I'm just gonna bust trying to get that speed up. I haven't trained for a mile before, and I've only ever done like a couple mile time trials. Like I did a mile quite a few years ago that I did it in 7:30, but that's because I was younger and I wasn't in as good shape as I am now. So, or as good shape as I was at the height of my training. Um, so obviously, I think with good training, six is attainable. I think so. But we'll see. Maybe I'll start training and I'll come on these videos in a couple of weeks and be like, all right, that didn't work at all. So we'll find out. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to do at least one outdoor triathlon. Because the thing is, so the first two triathlons I did were both indoor triathlons. So I want to do an outdoor one. Obviously, the one I was planning to do in Geneva was an outdoor one, and that was really exciting. The prospect of being on a physical bike, swimming in the lake, especially Geneva, the lake there is beautiful and there's such good scenery. But any lake with just like amazing scenery would be really cool to swim in. Have the wetsuit and the transitions and all that stuff. I just thought that's really cool to me, and that seems really fun. So I think I found some triathlons that are kind of at the end of the summer, and I think that would be good to kind of have like just do a sprint triathlon also, like not an Olympic one because the Olympic one I really need to give myself time to train that distance to get that long distance endurance up versus a sprint. I know I could complete the distance, which means I could focus a little bit more on my speed aspect, and I think that training would just be a little less complicated. So maybe this summer, no Olympic triathlon, but at some point I will do one because otherwise the name of this series makes no sense. Because I'm not in the Olympics. If I don't do an Olympic distance triathlon, then why is this not even an Olympic triathlon? You know what I'm saying? So at some point I will do one, and that will be a like canon moment on the channel. But we're gonna have to wait just a little bit for that to happen. But yeah, so I would like to do a sprint triathlon at the end of the summer. And I think what I could do is basically, so once I'm allowed to swim, which would be around the 4th of July, I could start, lightly introducing it. It's basically cross training. So like in my mile, in my 5K work, I could start introducing the mile as, or the swim as like once or twice a week, just cross training and kind of recovery, also reduce the impact on my legs. Be good. And then so slowly kind of incorporate that that swimming, and then also maybe do like a bit of biking, and then like once I do like my big attempt for the mile, which is going to be either late July, early August, then just go full sprint triathlon mode, which is I reduce my running. My aerobic capacity is going to be good, so just do a little bit less running, a bit more biking, and a bit more swimming. So obviously it's not going to be like perfect training by any means, but coming off injury, I think it's the best we got, and it's going to be the best of all worlds because I know I can complete the sprint triathlon, so that's not the worry. It's just going to be the question of regaining my fitness back to where it was, figuring out some of the details like the nutrition and the transitions and the wetsuit and that kind of stuff for an outdoor triathlon, and then making sure that all my disciplines are balanced and where they need to be. But I think yeah, it's going to be that is like once like I'm going to focus on running because running is my favorite discipline, um, and that's going to be the one I can restart the quickest. Well, that and biking, but I like running way more than biking. So restarting the running first, going strong with that, and then once I can restart swimming, slowly incorporating it as cross training and then increasing the volume because it's going to help my aerobic capacity, as I said. So, what I could do is just replace like a 3 mile run with like a 40-minute swim. And I'm going to get a similar aerobic benefit from that. But then it's also going to be working on my swim technique and I can do some drills. I could even look at getting a swim coach because I was about to start with a swim coach in Spain right before I got injured. Like literally the day after I got injured was my first swim lesson, and then just got all thrown out the window. So, find a swim coach here in the U.S. and I think that would be good for me. So, I'll keep you guys updated on everything, but that's the plan. Is kind of, once if recovery goes correctly, 3 weeks from now I can restart athletic activities, and I'm already looking at there's a very probable kind of timeline of restarting the running, the triathlon activities. Obviously, a lot of the stuff is probably going to change because I'm someone who can go a bit on whims sometimes, be a bit impulsive with like, I'm just like, I just have a desire to do this and I'm going to go do it. So there's a chance that will happen. You guys will find out. But I think it would be, this is kind of what the general outline's looking like is, restart running, do some 5K, do some miles, and then go to the sprint triathlon and do that at the end of the summer once I'm able to, once I'm able to bike and once I'm able to swim. And I don't have any goal time for that. I just think it'd be a really fun experience to do a proper outdoor triathlon, get back with the crowds and the outdoor environment and all that stuff. I think it'd be really cool. But anyway, that's all for this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have any questions or comments or whatnot, you can leave a comment down below. If you've enjoyed hearing about my athletic journey and want to keep following it, you guys can subscribe to the channel. That's about it. And I will see y'all next week in the next edition, probably week 7 or week 8. I can't remember the weeks. I'll remember them next week. But I'll see you in the next edition, the next video in the series of Diary of an Olympic Triathlete. See y'all later.